And welcome back to Eyewitness News. Our legal counsel, Charlie O'Hara, here in the studio today. 436-1212 is the number to dial if you do have a question. Good morning, Charlie. Good to see you again.
How are you?
We have two questions already on the line. I'm doing well, so we'll go ahead and get to them and see how they're doing this morning. Good morning, caller. What's your question for us?
I was wondering if my boyfriend got married 9 years ago, but they were only together 3 months, so I was wondering if we have very little money, how could we go about getting a divorce, and they're still married 9 years later?
Well, to answer the question, even though you were only together for, they were only together for 3 months, they were actually married. And to get remarried, you'd have to get divorced. So if your boyfriend intends to marry you or someone else, ultimately, he's going to have to get divorced. If she's still around, you can do a simple divorce. Some people try to do that themselves. It's usually not a very good idea. There's some government programs and some programs of legal aid that help people that don't have any money that need to get divorced, and they do that on a need basis, and you can apply with them. Usually you can look around and find an attorney for a divorce that's not very contested, and there's not many people getting at each other's throat to do it pretty reasonably. There's some cost for the government for filing, but usually you can get that done pretty reasonably. That's probably what he ought to do.
All right, so once you're married, even if it's for a few weeks, you have to get divorced, or does their case of annulment come in?
Well, you can get annulled, and that means it's kind of a legal fiction that says you've never been married.
Okay.
And you can swear you've never been married even though you have, but you still have to go to court and get that done. So the gentleman that they're talking about is going to have to go to court somehow and get it straightened out.
Okay, thanks, Charlie. All right, we're going to head back to the phones. Another caller on the line. Go ahead, caller. What's your question for Charlie this morning?
Good morning.
Morning. Go ahead. What's your question?
Yes, I was wondering, I was with this lady for 13 years, and I was just wondering if I have any legal rights to her assets.
Well, in Kansas, you can be common law married, and what that means is you don't have to have a ceremony. If you hold yourself out and go through the marriage and act like you're married, then you're married. And so if that's the situation, if you used each other's name, and it was a common law marriage, well then you would be entitled to part of her assets, as would she part of your assets. If you simply lived together and never intended to be married, you're not entitled to anything she has in Kansas. So it would depend on the facts, again, as I say most of the time, but probably if you didn't intend to be married, you don't have any claim to her assets.
Okay, thanks, Charlie. You have to at least project it then to people.
Yes, if you go through some things to say you're married, even though you haven't had a ceremony, and you believe you're married, then you're married.
Okay, thanks, Charlie. All right, we're going to head back to the phones with one last call. Go ahead, caller. What's your question for Charlie today?
If your spouse passes away, who is responsible for, or am I responsible for, his debt and including his medical bills?
Well, I don't think you are individually. If you're married to someone and you're not on the bill with them, then you don't owe that. Now, if they have assets, those assets may go to that bill, and you're supposed to inherit those assets may go to that bill, so you may have to pay that bill out of those assets. But if you're not on a bill that somebody gets, even though you're married, you don't have to pay for that. So the answer would be no.
But if you have a credit card and both of you are on the account, you would still be responsible for it.
Correct, or a house in both names, or a car in both names, or anything in both names, then you'd be responsible.
Okay, thank you, Charlie. Appreciate your help. Good to see you again.
Okay.